Hey, welcome everybody. I'm Jason Weaver, Chief Product Officer for Growth Stage Companies. I'm here with my friend Jill, and we're covering an interesting topic today about how AI is transforming marketing and the future of customer acquisition. Jill, maybe you can give them a little bit about your background before we dive in.
Sure. Thanks, Jason, for having me on your podcast. I've been in the tech space for my entire career for over 20 years, and currently I'm working at a startup company called BrandCapsule, where I head up AI, go to market, and marketing for this company. We're an AI native company, so we are drinking our own champagne in terms of really embracing AI and leveraging that for how we operate as a business and what we provide to companies out there, particularly marketing organizations, to help them be discovered within the AI models out there.
Excellent. Everyone is talking about AI for cost savings, productivity gains, yet we're seeing market trend data about AI adoption failure. Why do you think that is, Jill?
Well, I think with any technology innovation, it's easy to get like focused on the technology itself. With this capability out there with AI, a lot of companies just kind of got on the bandwagon to do AI experimentation. What companies have forgotten is like thinking about a holistic strategy of transformation that happens in an organization operationally. So it's really critical for business to think about policies and governance, or with new technologies, training and adoption of the new capability. And so I think that initially the wave took off on AI adoption to just start to use it and experiment. But then many companies that haven't realized the full benefit yet are really starting to realize they need to put together a holistic strategy to really operationalize AI in their organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree with that. I'm going to translate the discussion a little bit into marketing. If you were to give one piece of advice to every CMO today, what would you give them? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say just in general, along that lens of not just focusing on the technology, marketers, we're here to think about the customer and the impact and how we engage with them to achieve whatever we need to with our businesses. And I think that the one advice I'd give is to focus on the customer. Steve Jobs talks about this back in the early days at Apple when Java was coming out, not to focus on the technology, but to build a billion-dollar size business. It was really focusing on the customer. And I think that's really critical because in this AI mediated world that we're living in right now, AI is transforming the customer buying journey and experience pretty dramatically.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I heard you talk about the funnel collapsing. Speaking of the buyer journey, the funnel collapsing and buying journey shifting. How is it shifting?
Well, before, if you think about the traditional buyer's journey, people will go, they'll research different watering holes digitally, they'll come to a website, and then they'll start to engage with the organization that they're thinking about buying from. In the AI world, they're going to their favorite AI model, whether that's ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude. They're having a conversation and they're receiving synthesized recommendations based on their pain points and needs. And then instead of going to all these watering holes digitally that we would have to think about how we showed up, AI is synthesizing all that information essentially. And then they're formulating their decisions on what to purchase and who to purchase from before they even engage with you as a brand. It's pretty dramatic. The funnel's collapsing because we used to go from generator response and we had to nurture them to MQL, et cetera, down the funnel. Well, now what's happening, there's a lot of dark data out there because a lot of companies can't see that engagement that's happening and how they're being researched with their favorite AI model and formulating their decisions, how they're thought of amongst their competition, and how an AI model is preferring them over a customer or vice versa, essentially. So I'm seeing shifts in how we approach our marketing strategies and how we've done things in the past, the last decade in our digital marketing world.
That's interesting. You know, one of the things you said is that marketers aren't just marketing to people anymore; they're also marketing to AI models. Can you narrow in on that? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, so if you think about the AI models being, as the heart of them, they're LLMs that are learning, trying to like achieve super intelligence essentially. You want to make sure that all your marketing, your integrated marketing efforts, whether it's your website, your content, your PR strategy, activities, your campaigns essentially are being surfaced by those AI models, but you also want to make sure that in the process of engagement of the questions that the customers are having, looking for those solutions that you have, that you're showing up. And so there's simple strategies that are shifting, right? Before we were more about closed and we wanted to protect our, our intellectual property and so forth. We still need to do that, but from a marketing lens, we have to really shift strategies to being more open so that AI models can actually find us and then synthesize all the information. And we're training those AI models essentially to surface answers. And if you're not an answer, you're not even in the consideration set. So that's very much a different like approach to marketing than how we have done that to go after human personas.
That's an interesting segue to my next question, which is, I've been working with marketers for years, and everybody understands SEO, right? And we've had this conversation about AEO versus AI. You've talked about SEO versus AEO versus AI discovery. What is AI visibility, and how is AI discovery intelligence difference? Can you unpack those for us?
Sure. There is a spawn of companies that came out around AI visibility. And a lot of that is because, even maybe a year ago, companies started seeing a dramatic fall in traffic to their site because of how Google has shifted gears with their Google AI overviews, right? People engaging first with their favorite AI model versus their typical Google search process. AI visibility really was built out starting last year to address like what I call like SEO 2.0, but how do you show up as being mentioned, just your brand being mentioned? There is like a ladder that you want to move through to drive growth, and you need to be mentioned and then move to making sure those AI models recommend you, then get them to prefer you over your competitors. And then eventually, by being preferred, they're going to recommend you, have a preference towards you based on all the marketing activities you're doing to influence that. And then that's how businesses are going to drive growth for this AI era that we're living in.
Yeah, that's interesting. So the companies that are winning, that are kicking butt at this, what are they doing differently? How are they ahead?
Well, I think that they're ahead because they're starting early with this, right? AI has a compounding effect. So those companies who get in early will have an advantage because you can't like outspend that learning, the compounding learning effect of AI, basically. So there is a legitimate race that people are having to get into here, and they really need to start thinking about this early on. I think there's a huge advantage and growth opportunity for small businesses who are starting this early versus enterprise. I'm actually curious if you're seeing like what you're seeing in the small business realm when it comes to AI.
Yeah, well, in the product world, that's a good question for me. Yeah. So in the product world, there's a lot of people using AI tools to accelerate their product development, working smaller teams and smaller resources. Imagine the same would be for marketers, but we're taking smaller teams and getting more done quicker, effectively, right? So I don't know how that applies over in the marketing side of thing, but I imagine there's similarities.
Yeah, well, I think there's still the need for tools, right, to increase productivity and efficiency, but I think this would be complementary to a product strategy side of things because um, we're seeing like whether you're a product marketer or you're a campaign role or you have a digital role or a PR role or a web role, essentially, a platform like addresses the needs across that for everyone to leverage in their respective areas and how they contribute to an organization.
That's amazing. Let's spend a few minutes talking about Brand Capsule. Tell me a little about it. What kind of problems are you aiming to solve with Brand Capsule?
The typical way people find brands is shifting pretty dramatically. Our view is that you may not necessarily interact with a website. You might be interacting with a chatbot or an agent or an AI avatar, interface essentially to go and get answers that you need solved for essentially. Eventually, websites will become probably more like think of data containers, but still like a representation of a brand. But you're going to want to make sure that all the information out there is available basically. Remember back in the day we would say, "Oh, you can't share competitive information. We don't want to put a competitive comparison out there." Well, the LLMs out there will formulate a perception of how you compare. So you do want to influence how you're compared to against your competitors. And so that's just the shift in strategy that we need to think about it. So our company is designed to really like prepare you for this future, get you ahead because like I said, AI is compounding and
Mhm.
get you ahead so you have a competitive advantage.
I think it's interesting. What's so far with brand capsules, there been some things you've learned from the customer? Any surprises that have come up in this journey with you so far? And things that you've learned by working with brand capsule?
Yeah, I mean, we have a mix of small business, mid-market, large enterprises that are working with us. And what we're seeing is the small businesses seem to be gravitating to this early. I'm curious, like what you're seeing. There's data out there that seems to like imply that small businesses are embracing AI a lot faster than large enterprises.
It is because you start with a clean slate, right? It's kind of like if you're building a new house, you could probably do it better, faster, cheaper today than you could 20 years ago, right? So I see the same thing in product that you're probably seeing in market.
Yeah, like on the marketing side, for a small business, there's nothing to learn. There's no legacy infrastructure that they have to like rethink or retool in this AI world that we live in. So we have a solar-based company who's a customer of ours, and they got in on this early, and they've been using this capability and really improving how they're being preferred by AI models. And we've heard that they've like, achieved, like, one of their record-breaking quarters as a result of what they've been doing, essentially. We worked with a manufacturing company, and they started using this capability, and, they were working with, like, traditional SEO and seeing that, they're having issues actually getting quality leads coming to them and a drop-off of their SEO, and then we heard, like, qualitative feedback from the sales team or the CRO, I think it was, who said basically that there was something specific that it surfaced on a strategy that they didn't think about from a go-to-market standpoint, and it actually recommended them. And as a result, the lead came through to them, and it was like their best lead ever.
Wow.
We're seeing a lot of that starting to happen across the customer set that we have.
Um,
So our capability makes sure that that specific question, not only do you know what the questions are that are being surfaced around your category and your competition in your business, but also you can import a lot of these questions that you want to be surfaced in, right? Even down to the granular level, and then our intelligence platform will start to like give you all the actions in your integrated marketing efforts for how you go about making sure that you are preferred by that AI model.
I love that. Fast forward 3 years, what will marketing teams look like? What skills or
Yeah, I wrote about this on my LinkedIn because I'm building that team as we speak, an AI native team, and I think that at the heart of it, we're shifting more to a systems minded marketing organization. So what that means is for me, I'm thinking more in terms of how I architect things. Like there's a need for marketing engineers, there's a need for marketing operators who are going to manage the orchestration of agents out there, right? But you're also going to need like AI operators, I think, who have like specialized skills. You still need that human discipline and experience that have built up in people's career, just knowing how to use AI, right, to operate. I think at the end of the day, we still need the human interactions with AI.
we do? Yeah, it's not all the way there yet. Yes, for
Yeah.
sure. All right, I got a final question for you. If there's one thing that every CEO, CMO, and marketing leader should take away from this conversation, what would you tell them?
Ooh, I mean, at the executive level, I go back to it's not the technology, it's the customer experience, right? I think a lot of people are still thinking about it from, yes, we can realize cost savings and there's productivity gains, but at the end of the day, keep the eye on what's happening with the customer experience and then figure out your strategies and how you insert AI to evolve to what's happening with the customer experience.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, we've been talking with Jill at Brand Capsule. How does somebody get a hold of you? Prefer LinkedIn, email?
Sure. Reach out to me on LinkedIn,
All right.
yeah, and connect with me or follow me. I actually have a newsletter that I put out every Friday that
Which
talks
is
about,
fantastic newsletter. Subscribe to that. Yes.
yeah, and it talks about like all the fast-paced trends that are going on, and as a marketer, how do we interpret that and what does that mean?
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, Jason.